Are we recording? Yes. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 2024 webinar of the International Webinar Series titled Successfully Navigating the Future of Higher Education in Leisure and Recreation, Global Administrative Perspective. My name is Mona Mirey. I'm representing Indiana University, Indianapolis, and TALS today. Myself and my co-host, Dr. Irina Sharievska from Clemson University and Dr. Ingrid Schneider from University of Minnesota are leading this session today. Please write your questions in the chat box throughout the conversation. We will be monitoring constantly. We have 4 panelists representing the Canadian Association of Leisure Studies, CALS, China International Leisure Research Association, CIRLA, the Academy of Leisure Sciences, TALS, and World Leisure Organization, WLO. The webinar is recorded and will be shared via TALS YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so. I will put a link in the chat. Please subscribe to access our previous videos and the current one. I'm going to pass this to Dr. Sharievska for now. Thank you all for attending, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mona. And I want to really reiterate and really thank all the organizing bodies of this webinar. We have great collaboration between organizations from around the world. And as we talked before we started this webinar, sometimes it can be challenging to bring everybody together into one webinar just because of time difference. But we definitely trying to ensure that we have kind of equitable representation. And so our spring webinar is probably going to be more evening time just to accommodate for that time difference. So again, thank you, audience, for attending. And thank you so much, our panelists, for being here and sharing your time and expertise with us. So I'm going to go really quickly through to kind of introduce our guest speakers today, and then we'll just kind of start panel. At all times, please feel free to post your questions in a chat. We really encourage kind of collaborative and discussion-based interaction in the webinar, and we hope that in the end we'll have a few minutes left for questions. So today with us here, Carla, representing CALS, Canadian Academy of Leisure Sciences. We have Dr. Carla Bullock, who is an associate professor in the Department of Recreation and Leisure Studies. She's also a visiting professor in the York Business School at York St. John's University, UK. And she's also co-chair of Tourism Education Future Initiative. We also have representing CALS, Dr. David Jury is the Associate Director of the University of Waterloo Work-Learn Institute, a research unit exploring the development of talent through work-integrated learning. And we have representing the Academy of Leisure Sciences, Dr. Ed Gomez, is a professor and director of the undergraduate program in the Recreation Park Management, a former chair of the Department of Recreation Sciences at East Carolina University. And obviously, I forgot to skip through my slides. Finally, but not the least, we have 2 representatives from World Leisure Organization, Dr. Oksana Grabovich Hefferman, who is serving as a chief of staff in the office of the president at the University of Northern Iowa. And she's also a professor at the Recreation, Tourism, and Nonprofit Leadership Department. And we have Dr. Leonardo Calix-Soares. Leonardo holds a master's degree in exercise science from the University of Sao Paulo and bachelor degree in physical education from Faculty of Physical Education of Santo André. So with that introduction, we have a great representation of speakers from all over the world, and also just kind of representing different levels of engagement in both academic work and administrative work. And so this topic, I think, is particularly relevant in our time, but obviously just changes in higher education systems are constantly happening, right? It's a very vibrant and constantly changing system that we are all part of and proud and honored to be part of. But we also a lot of times probably experience lots of challenges, or at least changes that we need to adjust for. With changes in a demographic situation all across the world and in US specifically, with technological changes that we all observe in, with just constant changes in funding systems and so on and so on. There's lots for us to address. So today our conversation will be based around just highlighting the most important issues that our speakers had experience to work on. And then also we really try to highlight not the problem itself, but the solution, successful solution to the problem. So definitely the first question is kind of surrounded around the issue to highlight what is that challenge that you've been facing. And then of course, with the emphasis once again on the second, third question will be, but how did we address it? What can be done, right? So hopefully these examples will be insightful for our audience. And please, once again, feel free to follow up, have a follow-up questions. Is there any particular order that speakers would like to speak in, or should I poll for you? What are preferences there?
You decide.
Okay, I'll just go in the same order that I presented to you. So if Heather, sorry, Dr. Carla, if you would like to start, let's do that.
Okay, sure, no problem. Thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks for the invitation to participate. I'll just say that I'm an associate professor in the Department of Recreation and Leisure Studies at the University of Waterloo, and I was served as the associate chair, and this is when we kind of stumbled upon the problem that we'll talk about today. So when I was in the associate chair position, I started to notice, really kind of pay attention to the decreasing enrollment in recreation and leisure studies degree programs, kind of not just in our institution, but kind of internationally, which has led to a number of ripple effects in terms of kind of mass redundancies. I'm based in the UK right now for the first few months of my sabbatical. And so we've seen kind of contraction at universities as a consequence of decreased enrollment. And one of the first, one of the tasks that I was assigned to when I was the associate chair was to attend recruitment events. And this was one of the many hats I was asked to wear that I felt ill-equipped to kind of participate, because I really wasn't sure what the value proposition that I should be selling to parents and prospective students. So this is kind of where our project was born, really. I'm not sure. I think Dave has some points to add.
I mean, how do I follow that, Carla? Because I think you're painting the picture that everyone probably resonates with, right? You're talking to a 16-year-old, their caregiver, their family, and that person with crossed arms is saying, why should I spend 4 or 5 years and tens of thousands of dollars spending time with you versus something else? So, I mean, what a pickle, right? What are you going to say to that student? So Carla in her role came to my colleagues and I, and I'll just make a quick diversion here to say I'm not a faculty member, but I do have 3 degrees from the department that Carla is based in, and I've had a relationship with that department for almost 2 decades. So while I don't teach students in the same way that many of the folks on the call do, I do have a pretty intimate understanding of what it's like to go through that program. And my colleagues and I now study how students develop skills and how those skills help them transition into the labor market, usually through forms of work integrated learning, like cooperative education and work terms, internships. So that's kind of my day job. But this was a neat opportunity for those 2 worlds to collide. So Carla and I and our colleagues put our heads together. We started to ask questions around what is the value proposition of these sorts of recreation, leisure, tourism related degrees. And when we looked into the literature, one thing that kind of popped out at us is, you know what, you should probably talk to the people who've gone through those programs. If you really want to understand the value of the program, talk to the people who've participated in it. And there's almost no research on alumni perspectives about RLS degrees, which seems kind of silly, right? There's lots of faculty perspectives, like just go look at Scholé, open up that journal, and you'll find lots of articles about what faculty think about their their contribution to student development. There's a little bit of stuff on what employers think is the value of these things, but very, very rarely do we engage the people who've actually been through the program. So that's kind of the work that Carla and I are doing, and throughout this webinar, hopefully we'll get a chance to share a little bit more. But if you had to log off now, if you just wanted to know what is the whole point of this project, I think our response would be alumni are this untapped resource. They probably have a lot of amazing things to say as you develop your value proposition, as you articulate that. And that's kind of our core thesis. We think that every department who's struggling with what Carla's calling contraction needs to articulate that value proposition and then send it out loud and proud. So hopefully we'll get a chance to share a bit more. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is definitely one of the big issues, right, that a lot of departments, I think, dealing with right now in terms of just getting enough students to continue really, functioning, but also we always been discovery major, right? But with decrease in just population of young people all across the world, it becomes a little more challenging. Of course, as you said, there's always the question of why should we invest in education simply based on where we are, I think, as a society, particularly in US, right? The education has been questioned and really focus switching much more to technical skills and things like that. So, all right, so I am gonna invite Dr. Ed Gomez to contribute.
Oh, all right. So I think Dave Drury just sent out a call for proposals on alumni perspectives of the value of their degree. I had also something related to low enrollments, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put on the administrative hat and say the consequence of that is then departmental viability. And so one of the things that I had to contend with as a chair is it's always either about numbers or it's about productivity to keep the department sort of afloat, and to also in the event you lose a faculty position, to also then make the argument for getting that faculty position back, right? And so, from because I had a lot of other things about how to basically increase low enrollments, but I'll do that in the other consequent questions. But from this perspective, I think that one of the things that we were successful in doing to try and make sure that we kept the department, even with low enrollments, very viable, was that we introduced a series of gen ed classes. And so when you start tapping into the general education requirements, all of a sudden you're going to get, majors from everywhere. And then we created several sections in order for us to basically say, yeah, we don't have the greatest numbers of majors, but we do carry a lot of student credit hour production based off of these gen ed classes that we offer. And so that so through that we were able to justify the need for these classes to not only continue, but they were always packed. I mean, our classes, so then we started basically using them. You have to have dynamic faculty in those classrooms, because then they ended up being recruitment tools, right? But the reverse is also true. If you don't have dynamic faculty in those classrooms, then it serves as a diminutive. The other thing that we kind of started doing was we started, I don't know if I want to say the word peddle, but I will. I guess we started peddling our minor, it was hit or miss depending on where we went, but there are sort of natural partnerships between marketing, management, public administration, hospitality and sustainability, and even biology. If you look at the net resources side. So what we started doing was saying, why don't we look to see what classes we can co-cross, so we started cross-listing with geography as well. So they had a geography and tourism course, and we had a tourism geography course. It made sense to, hey, why don't we go and talk to that department and see if we can actually cross-list this and be beneficial for both departments. They were also facing similar issues. So I think it was looking for natural partnerships that might exist because we are interdisciplinary for the most part. So those are some of the things, because of low enrollments we were facing as a department, that we dealt with. Then the last thing that I want to say is related to alumni. Alumni for us were because of previous years. So we went through a period of like almost 4 chairs within like 6 years before I got to East Carolina University. And that led to sort of this disconnect between us and alumni. And that was something that I was asked to really focus in on by the faculty themselves. And we now have like the strongest alumni association like in the university. They're not only active with us in our majors, but they're also active on the board with the college. And in fact, the alumni, the president of the board for the college is one of our alumni. So I think sometimes you have to pay the political, strategy as well, to make sure that you keep those folks who are in higher education like above us, right, in the roles of dean and above, constantly aware. We also have another alum that's like got the ear of our chancellor. So those kinds of things to make sure you tap into alumni, that could be useful. And I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So definitely, yes, lots of kind of nuances to each of those kind of propositions or solutions, if you will, right? And we'll talk more in details in our second and third question. But I want to invite Oksana Grabovich-Hofferman, if you would like to share what issue or challenge have you been facing with and kind of dealing with. Yeah, I'll let you speak.
I will continue the enrollment challenge, but address it from a little different perspective. I think that is not unique to universities in the United States or in Canada. It's probably happening across the world. But how do we respond to that? And it's been really interesting to watch this creativity of different programs trying to grapple with their identity, right? Really rediscovering themselves and repositioning themselves and their institutions. I have been able to serve as a accreditation reviewer for quite a few leisure and recreation programs here in the US, and you see that these departments are housed in different colleges, are housed in different there are different combinations, right? Sometimes you find leisure studies with kinesiology or with therapeutic recreation. Sometimes it's with communication and event planning. Sometimes it's in business with marketing and management. So there are different places, locations where you can find them. And sometimes that home determines the response. But the very common response that I've seen has been that of interdisciplinary certificates, minors, programs trying to partner up with others. What we have been exploring here at the University of Northern Iowa is really trying to determine, can we be all things to all people? Because we used to have different certifications and minors and all sorts of courses across different fields, so students can dabble in different areas. Or do we want to find a niche and specialize in that niche and be known as the place to go to for X, and you fill in the blanks, event planning or community development or what that might be. And we have engaged with advisory boards and with alumni to try to understand where they were coming from and what was that value of our students. So Carla mentioned at the beginning, when you meet with parents and when you meet with students, what's your value proposition? What is it that you're selling to them in essence? And that's what we're trying to understand. And overwhelmingly, the alumni and the advisory boards were voicing the advantage of being nimble and flexible and versatile and skilled in different areas. So what we have learned is that students were able to move seamlessly between the fields and between the sectors. And graduates of our students, because of all of their community-based projects and service learning experiences and internships and all of the other components that we build in our program, were able to navigate careers in nonprofit sector, leading to for-profit sector, leading to the public sector, and they were able to adjust because of those skills that they have learned in our program. And I do have to say and admit that this is still a work in progress, and we're still, at least here, and I've seen that on other campuses, are trying to find that identity, because as much as we would like to continue to offer that very broad range of experience to the students, Edwin had pointed out, over time, people retire and you lose faculty and you're not able to replace them, but your faculty pool is shrinking, so you only have so much to work with, and you need to keep your class enrollments up, right? You need to be able to justify to your dean why you need to offer a number of sections, or why do you need these courses, and why your what your student to faculty ratio is, and all of these other aspects. So there are some opportunities. I think a lot of opportunities also are in new markets. And what are the markets that we have not tapped into? Place-bound students that cannot quit their day job and travel to campus and take a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 to 12 o'clock class, but would be willing to go through an executive type program or an online or hybrid based program. And that really works better on the graduate level, more so than on the undergraduate level. But what are those markets? A lot of, in the tourism field, a lot of organizations and DMOs and CVBs, they would like to offer some sort of certification to their employees to allow them for career progression, and they're looking at the universities to help with that. So there are, I think, with what the enrollment challenge has done is it has forced us to think differently, to look for different ways to do things, to look for new markets, and to admit that we have to pause, step back, rethink who we are, what our purpose is, what it is that we are selling to the students. Can we package our program differently? Can we do combined undergrad to grad, 4+1, 3+2, and offer this additional value proposition that was not there before? And that does require change. People don't like change, but that's what I would say the answer, or the take on enrollment challenge would be.
Thank you so much. And I cannot agree more, right, that it's not the smartest or the strongest who survive, it's the one who able to adjust the best. And I would agree that a lot of times academia is seen as that very resistant to change. And I think, the point of this webinar is really to highlight the opportunities that come out of challenge rather than focusing on challenge itself. So there's lots of opportunities, and I'm really grateful that each of you highlighted a very unique approach to that. All right, so our next speaker is Leonardo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here representing World Leisure Organization and also the institution I work for here in Brazil. I would like to actually emphasize something really Brazilian here happening in my country, that we can see a decline in global leisure studies in general. So I'm not only talking about a specific field or something, but when you're talking about the global phenomenon in Brazil, studying leisure as this macro area, we can see a huge gap between the 70s and 80s and nowadays. So we have these younger researchers, me included. I'm not that young, I think, but younger than the funding guys in the in the 70s. We have been studying, of course, different manifestations of leisure. So through the sports, arts, in my case, sports specifically. So what we can see is that we have been bringing this interdisciplinary idea to the leisure studies, blending with other sectors such as technology, sustainability, well-being, and so forth. And it looks like that is a great strategy of bringing more people to be in contact with the leisure field. The thing, in my opinion, is that bringing more people don't guarantee the reach, guarantee more people having contact with the knowledge itself, but it's not going to guarantee that we're going to have more a whole ecosystem working in the leisure field, in the leisure sectors. So in my opinion, it's important to also develop a more sustainable ecosystem in an organization, because these people have to have where to go. So after finishing this degree, we need some leisure organization institutions such as mine to receive these people and to work for, because of it's how it is. One thing that we have been doing here in my organization at SESC is that we are trying to address the lack of physical active people in the planet, actually, but much more here in Brazil, in São Paulo specifically, the state I live. And we have been creating, our main strategy is creating memorable sports experiences, trying to show, to broadcast, to showcase the best of staying active, and maybe eventually having people active for longer periods, like reaching the minimum of WHO, WHO, for example. So it could be one good strategy too, maybe creating and designing programs that can introduce to this group of people the highlights of being involved in the leisure field. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So it sounds like there's definitely big issues coming through, right? And many of you kind of highlighted the enrollment and just kind of being able to ensure that students see the value in our degree, and their parents see value in our degree. And of course, that students graduate with the skills that they need for the field. So if our next question, I guess, is focused much more on just approaches that you kind of took to address the issue, and if you can maybe go a little more in depth about a successful implementation or certain either program or approach that you have been part of or observed in your institution or supervised in your institution. And then we will have the last fourth question about advice kind of for the wrap-up question. So if you want to go in the same order, that would be great. Or otherwise is also fine. So I'll invite Carla, but feel free to join in and go out of order, I guess. Yes.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to go next. So the main kind of concern, just circling back to what we introduced initially, was that I was in this associate chair position, attending recruitment events, and not really knowing what the unique value proposition was that I should use to kind of sell our program. I know how amazing our faculty are, they're world-renowned scholars. I was just wondering what message to sell to parents and prospective students. And we were really curious about, so David mentioned, I went to Co-op and also the Work Learn Institute to get some insight. We had a lot of kind of iterative dialogue, and then determined it was really important for us to carry out an empirical study. And so this is where we're at right now. So we kind of led with the question, if faculty and staff in recreation and leisure studies programs were aware of the value proposition, could this translate into increased enrollment in our programs? And so we went to the literature. We've taken up grounded theory, and we're also using a feminist ethic of care, because we've carried out, I think we carried out 7 focus groups with alumni. And as Dave mentioned previously, we learned in the literature that alumni are really kind of this untapped stakeholder group. And so that was really the impetus to reach out to them. We did a pilot study initially, and then based on our analysis of the pilot study, the pilot focus group, we tweaked our questions. And we carried out 7 focus groups with over 30 alumni in the spring of 2024. And what we learned from our informant, or maybe so that's the approach that we took. I think that the general question is that we determined that we would reach out to alumni to really kind of learn, what the value of an RLS degree was from their perspective. And specifically, the alumni we reached out to had graduated within the last 10 years. So that's probably important for listeners to know. We had 5 to 8 alumni in each of the focus groups that we ran in the spring of 2024. Dave, what did I miss?
Nothing, you're perfect. It's just really interesting that I'm hearing that Ed and Oksana have similar initiatives, right? Like we're talking about, I started saying, look, no one talks to alumni. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that the folks on this call have figured out the same thing that we figured out. Like, hey, we do have an identity crisis, like Oksana said. Ed shared something in the chat that there's 1 million fewer enrollments in the US. Wow, that seems pretty shocking. I bet that's a pretty global phenomenon. Maybe it's a greater scale in the US, but as far as everyone on this call is concerned, it sounds like we have a shared issue, right? We're all saying, okay, well, are we going to have as many students next year as we do right now? So if the answer is no, what do we do about that? How do we go to those recruitment events and say things that are appealing and compelling and that showcase the value? It's not, I know that you're using the word sell, Carla, but I might say like showcase or, demonstrate or articulate, because we all know the value of RLS. Like we're producing graduates that are changing the world. That's unequivocally true, but are we really good at communicating that? I don't think so. And so that's why we wanted to get some language from alumni to figure out what is it that they're reflecting on and learning about their time going through these programs. And a lot of it has to do with self-transformation. Many of you probably remember Mark Havitz. He was a department chair at the University of Waterloo for many years. I remember he told me once that probably 4 out of 10 RLS grads out of Waterloo don't end up in pretty traditional jobs. They're not going and working for the YMCA. They're going and working in sales positions. They go work for Microsoft or IBM or something. So let's not pretend that they're all going to become professors and directors of municipal rec departments. They're going and doing a whole bunch of things, but they're affecting change through a leisure lens in those diverse organizations. And I think that's something that we need to celebrate. We learned a lot through these conversations with alumni that they're prioritizing caring for themselves, caring for others, caring for the world. That's that feminist ethic of care that Carla's talking about. And they're doing so through this sort of leisure lens that we're teaching those students. As one example, I still remember one alum saying, I don't ask my friends how work is going. I say, how are your hobbies? And it was this like really clear example of how they were positioning leisure as the most important thing. And I think that's like a philosophy that student is developing through the program that they're taking to whatever job they're going to have, whatever life circumstance they find themselves in. And that's really cool. And I feel like if we can latch on to that narrative of self-transformation and, creating graduates who can transform the world through leisure, then a lot of parents are probably going to uncross their arms and realize like, yeah, my child is going to get a job and they're going to do amazing things in the world if they go and spend some time with you. So yeah, I noticed that someone posted in the chat, this is really cool. Oh, Ingrid Schneider, thank you. Is this so good? Do you have a report in progress? We do have a report in progress. It's not ready to go yet. And who knows, maybe there's a conversation to be had after this, because Ed's saying maybe there's a special issue. Carla, Ed, maybe there's a conversation to be had later on, but we'll have something maybe in the new year. We do have other colleagues who, as recently as last week, were finished some data coding. So we're prepared to share some stuff publicly, but not quite yet. We'll have to come back to you later.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna move us along, but I will be reaching out to all of you with the invite to participate and a very similar panel at 12. So hopefully by then you'll have some more information, but it is very, very interesting information that you're sharing right now. And I do think that it is an incredible resource that you're producing. All right, so Ed, would you like to go next and talk a little more in depth about solutions?
Sure. So there are very few ways that you can either grow or stabilize a department. You can either grow the numbers, and as we see, so I was also asked, are those million that less enrolled, that came from the Chronicle of Higher Ed, and they were specifically focused on four-year institutions. And I don't remember if that was in 2023 that it came out, in 22, but it was shortly after COVID. You know, and it looks like enrollments have gone on slightly. So I'm one that really watches the Chronicle of Higher Education and Inside Higher Ed. I think if you're going to be in administration, those are really good things to keep monitoring. One of the things we did, so you can either grow numbers, you can merge with another department, you can bring in a new program, right? Or I mentioned or start offering more gen ed classes, right? We actually were able to bring in, for some reason, the sport management program at ECU was actually in kinesiology, but most of their research that was done was more behavioral oriented and less on the physical side. And so they reorganized that program and brought it under the Recreation Sciences Department. So I think that was something that was, so that was an influx of 300 majors that we didn't have, right? So that was one way to grow the department. You know, but now it's sort of like we have to make adjustments as to, you know, the curriculum and whatnot. But that's an easy fix because they're excellent colleagues. And the melding has been really seamless. I think from the other thing, so we're gonna, I hope, do a rebranding campaign because we are going to be changing the name of the department. And anytime there's a name change, that's an opportunity for you to really sell yourself. I don't want to say prostituted myself, but I kind of did, in the sense that anything and everything that was a congratulations or job well done by the faculty, or something they got recognized it, I always shot it to the dean, to the provost, and to the president. And I kept doing that. And I would do monthly updates. And I didn't care if they read it or not. My goal was to get it out to them and put them on their radar. We are here and we are thriving. And look at our faculty. They are awesome. Because it's always good to keep them, you know, on the radar for that. So sorry. I'm supposed to be in class. So in class, I set a 5-minute warning when I'm ready to finish because I get so excited when I'm in the classroom. Anyways, retention strategy, advising. Our students love that we have one-on-one relationships with them. When we meet with them for advising and both career advice as well as course advice, that is actually one of the biggest word of mouth things that we get. And we get students that are like, oh, what are you talking about? Like our faculty does this. And so that one-on-one focus on undergraduate development and people development, as I call it, you know, they start talking to others and all of a sudden like, oh, I was this major, but I really heard you guys take care of your students here, right? So that's another selling advice that we just, you know, and then, yeah, I just started doing some recruitment events. There was one that I thought I was going to be in, but then it conflicted because I was actually at a conference. But we just started reaching out to, we have a large Latino population here in Eastern North Carolina, and we started a specific initiative from the university called Conectémonos, which literally, connect with us, right? And it's an outreach, right? And it's like, if you'd like to represent your major, why wouldn't you? Because we actually do serve these communities and we're already out there, so they know us, from the practitioner side, and we can be like, hey, you can get a job in this, and help out your community. So I also lean into sort of the cultural side of it, which is they tend to be much more collectivist as a culture, and our program actually lends itself to that. So these are some of the strategies that we have started to sort of look at and become involved with, both internally as well as externally to the department.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And just to make sure that we have about 10 minutes left in the end for questions, I want to offer Oksana, both and Leonardo, about a few minutes also to talk about their solutions and their kind of successful, opportunities that you worked on.
I would say additional opportunities that have not been mentioned. One is it's difficult to sometimes it might be difficult to convey the message of the importance of planning and strategic planning. And I know that not everybody likes that, and sometimes it's seen as, well, another document that's going to go on a shelf and nobody's ever going to look at it. But if you approach it from the perspective that there's an opportunity to examine what works, what doesn't, to try to capitalize on those opportunities, and also, equally as importantly, to let go of things that are not working, because people like to hold on to things that they've done for years. That, in my opinion, is such an important, critical part to that. And some of the opportunities that are out there across the US and the world, there are conversations about shortening time to degrees. Yes, we have the Carnegie model, 120 credit hours here in the United States for a student to receive a baccalaureate. And we are still upholding that model. But there's usually a split between some sort of liberal arts core general education curriculum, the major courses, and additional certification credentials that students can earn. For many, many years, the pattern in higher education has been to build out the programs and have really large number of credits that we would require students to take. So for somebody who is transferring to the institution and not starting as a freshman, they're not going to be done in 2 years. It will take them 3 good years to finish. And sometimes even for students coming out of high school, they might not be done in 4 years. It might take them longer to complete the degrees. Is it really truly fair to the students, or do we need to be mindful of what are some of the main concerns of the families that we're meeting with at these recruitment fairs? And cost is a big concern. Cost of higher education is a big concern. Student debt is a big concern. What role do we play as educators in addressing that? In making sure that we're still teaching the competencies and the skills that we believe are critical to, whether it's someone maybe knows sport or tourism or event planning or PE or outdoor recreation. What are some of those key skills and competencies, but within a reasonable time frame? And another opportunity that's out there that I've seen some universities take advantage of is partnering with 2-year institutions. There are a lot of opportunities out there of community colleges providing degrees in hospitality or in culinary degrees, or some of them have tourism programs. There are even high school career centers that start as early as in high school with dual credits with community colleges, to look at some of these fields. Event planning, I've seen that. What are those partnerships? Do we have paths, alternative paths for students, kind of an on-ramp and an off-ramp, where you can, if you have a 2-year degree, is there a path for you to join a 4-year program and transfer your courses and complete within a reasonable time frame. And the last thing that I would add is the power of storytelling should not be underestimated. Ed mentioned any praise or achievements of graduates and current students, sharing them with university leadership. I would go sharing beyond university, sharing with community, working really closely with your university marketing, with external relations to make sure that your alumni know, other programs know, that your community knows what the students are capable of.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Oksana. And I know Dave is against word selling, but unfortunately, we do live in a society where we do have to sell, right? This amazing product that we know we have. So I would agree that with everybody's kind of comments that highlighting the importance and value of what we have. We know it, but how would other people know it if unless we highlight it and present it and package it and really kind of broadcast it to general public and higher up administration within the university. So all of the very valuable advice. Leonardo, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you. So, as you may know, I work in a bottom-up organization. So, we design activities, leisure activities, in order to solve a problem of people. So, bringing more people to our programs. We attend around 7 million people per month through our leisure activities. So, we have a strategy here to address some issues. That is a three pillars. That is based in three pillars. That is quality, opportunity, and concept. Quality, actually, I don't think it's arguable here because it's clear for me that all the programs this group here is talking about is high. It's of high quality, but basically we define some metrics and standards and we evaluate it. But when it goes to opportunity, we are talking about this too, as a way of addressing this issue. Is that what's going on? What are the emergent trends? What are the opportunities? What's going to be work in a couple of decades? Work is very important too, of course. So presenting this, looking for these emergent trends and what's growing already could be a great strategy to create this opportunities to people. And when we talk about opportunity here, we are talking about in SASC, we are talking about a blend of motivation, eventually that happens eventually, and also regular motivation. So what's regularly motivating people to join? What are the career opportunities? What is available already in the society? What is looking like in your future is really key. So it's more or less using this opportunity pillar as a way of addressing this issue you're talking about. And finally, this third pillar is concept, how we create this framework, this background plan. And normally what we do is combining different approaches with interdisciplinary idea. So as I said in the beginning, we combine leisure with sustainability. We combine art exhibition and technology. So it's a great strategy of bringing more people inside our exhibitions, our art events, and in general. So the for us, practicing is very important. So I'd like to bring finishing, maybe not finishing at all, but just another idea is that it works because when we are creating a leisure program, we attract investment as a consequence. So in my opinion, bringing more attention to the field of leisure and recreation, showcasing, as you're using these words, this benefits and everything, we are going to create a potential, higher potential for collaboration between public sectors, private companies, and everything. And we are going to create this leisure society. Is more like this ecosystem is going to be broader and stronger, in my opinion. And in general, it's eventually is going to be bringing more people inside the studies, creating more professionals, and having this field even stronger than it is right now. And I agree with basically almost everybody. And Dave said we have to communicate it very well. And communication normally for us here is telling the person what is this very thing they are joining, and also what are the benefits they are going to have in joining this program. So it looks like very easy and basic, but we know that in the day to day, in the routine, is not that easy at all. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of ecosystem that you're bringing up, right? Because there are so many involved pieces that we need to really bring together to first survive as universities and departments, but just a larger goal of really bringing attention to the value, right? And opportunities that leisure and recreation have for larger society, for our communities, and so on. And as everybody mentioned in chat and in this conversation, right? It doesn't only include university, it includes kind of satellite institutions, right? Including smaller maybe colleges, including community, including, as you mentioned, Leonardo, practitioners, right? There's a big kind of system that we are all part of. And of course, a lot of times we get, busy with very small kind of day-to-day things, right? And so we forget about that strategic planning, as Oksana mentioned, right? So there's a lot of large picture, global kind of view that we need to a lot of times take, right? And of course, that's the role of our administrators, our department chairs, our deans, our presidents, right? But it is very important for us as individual faculty also to contribute to highlight and bring attention to the success stories and to things we do in classes that nobody but our students maybe know, right? And to reach out to alumni, which once again, great idea, but who is going to do that extra work, right? So it's really important to really figure out the organizational structure, the large picture kind of point of view, to find connections between the marketing department, the chair, the faculty, the students, the alumni. So lots of great ideas, as I said. I would love to hear from the audience and see if audience has any follow-up questions. I know that there's some things been happening in the chat. There's a little bit of discussion kind of going parallel to our panel. So any questions, and feel free, since we are today structured as a meeting, feel free to just raise your hand and speak up, or type your question in the chat. Sometimes typing can be easier for some people. Speaking can be faster and kind of more efficient way. So feel free. I'll give a couple of seconds for people to collect their thoughts.
Graham has been commenting. I don't want to put you on the spot, Graham, but if you would like to join in, please feel free to do so. He's just smiling. I guess he doesn't want to. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I didn't want to say too much anyway. That was a very interesting because I'm based in the UK and I'm based in Edinburgh. And not often the UK with the LSA, but we don't, we do have researchers looking at letter and doing a lot of interdisciplinary work, but we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have any holiday recreation fees. a very much sport tourism event for wonderful. And if and there's some flow idea on but it might be good to look at the differences between graduates and students in different countries. For example, knowing the US is the therapeutic recreation adaptive physical activity. But in the UK, we don't. And I think we have health and social care crisis in the UK. So it might be really interesting to look at the differences between different students doing leisure event tourism in the US or in Brazil or Canada compared to, for example, the UK. So yeah.
Great point. Yes, yes. Do we have anybody from Canada who would like to build on what Graham said? He's right. Well, we do have leisure and recreation programs in the United States, and then we also have smaller programs like sport as tourism, physical activities. What he's saying is that they don't have a big umbrella leisure and recreation program in the UK, but they have the smaller components like sport tourism events, so on and so forth. And it definitely would be interesting to look at how the programs are structured and how overall these different structures works out. Do we have anybody from Canada here who would like to add something to what we are talking? Thank you, Graham.
I'm Steve Henley from Montreal, from Concordia University. And I did hear one of the topics being the cost of tuition for families to consider. And in the Canadian context, our tuition is much less than our American counterparts, but it's relative. And the discussion amongst families is the same discussion, even though the dollar amounts are much less. They're contrasting and weighing the difference of one degree to another degree. But tuition is not the high tuition or the low tuition is not the deciding factor. It's the relativeness of the programs that they're considering for the students to enter when they're looking at what undergraduate program makes the most amount of sense. The other thing that I've had at Concordia is a lot of students who've come to leisure studies, and it wasn't their first choice. Their first choice didn't work out, and they realized that they were in the wrong program, and they switched into recreation and leisure studies, and then found a very good fit with what they wanted to learn and what their aspirations were. And I think that highlighting that that students might fail out the first time and they might not be as successful as they had thought because they picked the wrong program, which happens very easily when you're so young, but that coming to recreation and leisure studies could be a solution to help them successfully complete their university degree. And I think that would cross a lot of borders. Thanks.
Wonderful. Well, we have a very good conversation discussion happening, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So it's 11:01. So we're gonna really thank everybody for your participation. Panelists, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your really amazing advice and really wonderful kind of success stories. We also thank all the audience for being here. I once again want to absolutely thank our amazing committee and all their collaborating organizations that were part of throwing this webinar together and making sure that it does happen. As I said, hopefully this discussion is not kind of end to it. We will plan to continue it in some shape or form as we go. There was some obviously discussion of special issues, potentially panels at other events and so on. So thank you again very much. Please feel free to reach out to our speakers directly. And if you have any questions for me or organizing committee, please, or advice, please feel free to reach out as well. On this note, I want to wrap up, and once again, thank you all for your participation.
Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.